program. You figured they're going to bring their star power out. But this is, it's still chemistry experiment part of the season. These squads are all coming here maybe still with some questions to be answered when you start to choose the lineup for those championship races to come.
Well, when you look at this Oregon team and just, the star power that they have, this team has not run together before. I mean, we're talking about, Simeon Birnbaum, Ben Balazs, Connor Burns, Aiden Smith, the new addition in Michael Morales, who is now racing in his third Dellinger, which coincidentally he's sitting right next to his team that he formerly ran for the last couple of years in UCLA as we go down the the starting line. But this Oregon team has so much potential, Paul. You put the pieces together, and they got a test today with this Air Force team right here. As I said, 53 seconds between their top 7 guys at the Gans Creek Classic. Any coach would just dream of having something like that for a lineup. And, we're going to see star power from Oregon. We're going to see depth from Air Force. So I'm excited just to see what else we can have today on this gloomy, I should say, but also perfect race day here in Springfield.
Hey, when Simeon Birnbaum's at the line wearing sunglasses, it's a serious race, no matter if it's rain or shine, as we're getting set now as we give you a lovely shot above the boxes here as they prepare for this men's race to get us underway at the Bill Dellinger Invitational for 2025. The men will run 8,000 meters. We'll have splits for you at every kilometer, and we're ready to run.
Here we go, men's 8,000.
2025 Bill Dellinger Cross Country Invitational is underway at Pine Ridge Golf Club in the adjacent city of Springfield, Oregon. A big athletic weekend on this second weekend of October. Indiana in town for a top 10 battle with the University of Oregon Ducks in football, and already asserting himself in the early going is Simeon Birnbaum. And Keenan, I talked to Jerry Schumacher, had a chance to catch up with him overseas in Tokyo during the World Championships, and when he talks about Simeon, he just says, you haven't seen anything yet. The kid is just, he's just growing in his maturity and is going to be definitely a part of the equation for the men of Oregon this season and hopefully for seasons to come.
Well, they're as tough as they come, Paul. I mean, this kid actually, grew up in Canada and played hockey. So if toughness is not in his blood just because of being a hockey player, I don't know where it's coming from. The Midwest, there is that toughness, but I mean, he's totally locked in since he's, put on that uniform at the University of Oregon. I mean, he ran a 3:52 mile this last indoor season. I mean, if that doesn't say enough about what he's been able to contribute for this program so far, I don't know what else does. But I also like, seeing Aiden Smith, who's our leader now to this point of this race. A local kid, went to Lincoln High School up into Portland, had a huge season last year, finishing All-American honors for the Ducks last year in Madison.
Yeah, the Big Ten runner-up at 10,000 meters. There's another look at this field, and we give you the list of competitors and their bib numbers, a large contingent from a number of schools. Again, a lot of schools just kind of bringing their personnel here to give them a chance. Air Force, Cal, Central Washington, Oregon, and Oregon State. You got San Diego State, St. Mary's, UC Davis, UC Irvine, UC Riverside, UCLA Bruins, and Weber State. As we're underway again, 8,000 meters in what amounts to as flat a cross-country course as you're going to see out there this season, Keenan. But, again, it affords the coaches to just kind of watch and gives everyone the opportunity to have a consistent race maybe for the first time this season.
Well, after a long 10 weeks of training, I believe that the Oregon men were up in Park City. I think they appreciate having a flat course, especially having to do a lot of altitude training and a lot of hill training over the last couple of weeks. But as you said, this is just a great opportunity to get a fast time, to kind of just test where their fitness is at. I mean, for me, this is really their first race this season. They had a couple of races that some of their B squad athletes were competing at, the Utah Valley Invitational. They had them at the Cowboy Jamboree down in Stillwater. Solid efforts overall, but this is really the first time that we're going to get a chance to see this Oregon lineup as Aiden Smith takes us through the lead with that first K.
Yeah, 2:55 on the first kilometer. You also see above on the top of your screen the team scores as they are populated through Oregon with pretty low sticks here right now as they have 22 points and Air Force second in 60 points in second. You also see the athletic course tracker where they're working their way now towards the southern part of this course. And the elevation tracker below gives you a sense of kind of the undulations that they have here on this golf course in Springfield. Jaden Natz of Air Force also among the leaders. Donovan Chariot of UC Davis. Also Joshua Razzo of Air Force. But it is a lot of Oregon Ducks here in the early going as they work their way through the second kilometer. Get 8K on this race day.
Well, it's a lot of Oregon, but it's also a lot of Air Force. As I kind of pointed out at the beginning of this show, with Oregon having their star power, that's expected. You're seeing Aiden Smith, Simeon Birnbaum, and then the latest addition, Abdel Lagel, up there in the front from Providence. But as I said, Air Force, that pack, it's going to be right there till the very end because that's just how they run. That's just how they're connected. That's how they've trained together. And, at this point, maybe less than 10 seconds is that spread right now.
Saw them traverse over a little bit of a rise there, but again, very limited in terms of ascents and descents on this golf course. Cross-country track is getting close to 5 minutes on the clock with Peter Visser of Weber State now trying to take the lead. This will be the U-turn coming up here, and we'll get them to the second kilometer split momentarily.
And Peter Visser had a really solid year last year for Weber State. Qualified for the NCAA championships, just finishing within that top 130 of all athletes. But, fourth at a very tough Big Sky conference, having to compete against Northern Arizona, Montana State. If you're finishing the top 10 amongst those elite teams in that conference, that bodes well. And, he's not afraid. I mean, this is like I said, Big Sky versus Big Ten. You got ACC schools, which is still hard to believe that some of these schools are in these different conferences, Paul, but no fear from Peter Visser here early on here with Abdel right on his heels.
No, definitely inserting some pace here. It's kind of broken up the group just a little bit. 92 guys out on the course right now, running 8,000 meters, being chased by the Gator and our production staff here as they'll come through the 2 kilometer split in 5:48.7 with Visser the leader, Lagel, and then the other 3 ducks in a row, Birnbaum, Burns, and Bishop.
Here comes the lead cart and the lead runner.
And then Michael Morales, who we talked about earlier, probably the key figure for them to get a Big Ten cross-country title this year. He's back there in that 10th position, making his way up. I think that's part of the plan for Jerry Schumacher in this group. I'm really impressed so far with Abdel in this race, Paul.
Behind them is Simeon Birnbaum.
Yeah, everyone's running confidently here, and he's decided to stay with the leader, Visser, with a lot of talent in tow here as they get a little bit of a rise here coming through just now into the 3rd kilometer of this men's 8,000 meters, the Bill Dellinger Invite. You see the team scores now comfortably calculated as Oregon still with the lead, but Weber State has done a nice job here, Keenan, in the early going. He got 3 guys in the top 10, and that's helped him grab a share, well, not a share, but they solidified themselves in second so far.
Well, this is a big opportunity, too, for Weber State because this won't be the last time that they see Air Force. I mean, these 2 teams are in the same region, so they'll be seeing each other at the mountain region. So a big points opportunity, especially, if Weber State can take down a top 25 team in the country and then try to compete with a team like Oregon. Although there's a lot of green I'm seeing right here. And I did point out that, BYU, perfect 15 last year. That's going to be hard to replicate. They might eat my words, Paul, because there's a chance there could be a perfect 15 from this Oregon team today.
Still a lot of racing to come. You saw them run through a nice spot in the course section where there was a good crowd on hand. Always, anytime you put track and field or cross country, road racing in the Eugene area, the locals come out in full community support. A few guys taking their gloves off here as they get warmed up and move now to 8 minutes elapsed on the clock in this men's 8,000 meters at the Bill Dellinger Invite. And still Visser and Abdel 1 and 2. Connor Burns right there behind him as the Ducks well now populating that top 10.
Paul, I count 7 of them in that top 10. And I don't know if I'm Wisconsin or head coach Mick Byrne watching this race right now. I'm shaking a little bit and a little nervousness about oh, geez, really, our Big Ten title streak is on the line now, because this Oregon team, and I know we haven't even gone through 3K yet, looks really, really good. And that says a lot, too, about when you have the Big Ten cross-country runner-up back there in that 7th position for them. I think they are taking turns with each other and, letting some guys take the lead here. I am really impressed with Connor Burns, though. We haven't seen him race since the indoor season, Paul. I mean, since he won that indoor title in Indianapolis, like, we had no idea, what his fitness was going to look like, because we didn't see him at all during the outdoor season.
Yeah, that's kind of the luxury you have with the depth that Jerry Schumacher has. And, we were talking at the event we did last week at the Chili Pepper. A lot of these programs now finding themselves restricted on roster sizes and, making harder decisions about the depth that you can really have for a program. But Oregon really enjoying the luxury now of just so many options to throw in. And if you want to take one of these seasons off to get healthy or to save a year of eligibility, he's got the luxury to do that.
He really does, and that, again, just the amount of depth and the talent that he has within this program. Again, I do see, obviously, the 7 guys that are up front. Jack Myers back there, about 8th and 9th position for them, but, it really is not going to stop after this year. This program is going to continue to grow. I mean, you got guys like Juan Gonzalez, who is running unattached today. He's a really talented individual out of Nebraska. But then you got an individual from the state of Iowa who has not even come to this school yet, in Quentin Nauman, who we've had the luxury of watching this last year, 3:58 in the mile, and had arguably one of the greatest triples at a state meet you could even think about in Iowa this year. And, that's someone. I talked to Jerry Schumacher about Quentin Nauman, and, I asked him, I was like, what'd you see in this kid? Like, what made you believe that this kid could, contribute and be part of this program? He's like, he's a Midwest kid. I lived in the Midwest. I see these kids. I know what they're capable of, and they're tough and they're gritty.
Keep watching the course here. We're moving through 3 kilometers, and again, Oregon at that point through 3 kilometers at 8:49 with Visser of Weber State and Rudaraju of Air Force, the only 2 non-Oregon athletes in the top 9. I'm also noting back there a little bit, Keenan, we'll keep an eye on the trio from Air Force. I think that's Terrence Allen, Jaden Nats, and Matthew Edwards that are all kind of working together, trying to stay in contact with that lead group. And, that's the beauty and the ability here in cross country. It's a long race over 8 kilometers. And, moving up slowly and steadily is a good team strategy, especially when you can work together.
I'm trying to do some math here and look at how, far apart those athletes are. And by my calculations here, Paul, I think there's an 8-second difference between our top 7, top 8 guys. So as I said, this group could potentially, have a spread of 20, 25 seconds when it's all said and done. I don't expect them, to be under 10 seconds. Crazier things have happened before in years past, but, this I think is what's really going to catapult Air Force to have success this year and, be a title contender in the Mountain West Conference this year.
Well, that is the halfway point that they've just passed on the course, as they're seeing the same part of the course for a second time. And Visser now back to the lead ahead of Lagel in 11:46.4. We'll populate that score and those times for you along with those team scores here momentarily. Air Force's Saketh Rudaraju in 3rd, and then the Oregon contingent of Evan Bishop, Ben Balash, Morales, Birnbaum, Smith, and Burns. Muhammad Ahmed has moved up for UC Davis. He's now in the top 6, as we see a little bit of separation now from this lead group of 11 from high above. But you look on the Gator view of it on the upper part of your screen, folks are still within, looks like, about 4 seconds of the leaders there, going all the way back to about 20th.
And I know we're not going to count him as in an Oregon uniform, but I'm seeing Juan Gonzalez make a presence there in that top group. He's sitting about maybe 8th right now, maybe that 9th position. So, maybe Coach Schumacher, maybe he was planning to redshirt him this year, although maybe he might have to reevaluate that decision and see what Juan can do here towards the end of this race. But I just like how much this Oregon group is working together. I mean, they're trading off positions throughout this race. Abdel, seems like he's been part of this program for however many years, yet he just transferred in from Providence and has asserted himself as maybe he's the guy that's going to, catapult Oregon to a Big Ten title this year.
Yeah, half the job, maybe more than half the job in the early going of the season is just to kind of reestablish an understanding of where everybody's running. There's so much movement now in the sport, and it is certainly a case here where programs needing an infusion of talent can do so very quickly, and it can pay dividends right away. Again, another look at that shot from high above the leaders as it's beginning to string out just a bit. That Air Force contingent we mentioned earlier looks like, a good portion of their team now in that, we'll call it the third grouping of it, noting also that Simeon Birnbaum has fallen back from the leaders here with Agile kind of inserting some pace here, but he's got 3 teammates in tow here as they come through 5 kilometers shortly.
Well, to me, right now, it's the 3 transfers that are really making a big impact. I mean, Ben Balazs, part of the program for the last few years, but you have Lagelle from Providence, and you have Evan Bishop right there behind him in second, who transferred in from Wisconsin, and then Michael Morellis back there, as we've talked about, from UCLA, has had his presence here, was 6th last year, just right behind that BYU contingent, 9th here in 2023 while representing the Bruins. If they can work, continue to work here over this last half of this race, primarily I'm looking towards, can Aiden Smith respond here? Can Simeon Birnbaum respond here? It says on the score right now 15 points for the Ducks, but really there's 4 guys out front, and then there's Weber State, UC Davis, Air Force that are, breaking up that perfect score.
And it is the Oregon contingent in the lead through 5 kilometers. As Abgel takes a look back, and the racing continues here at the Bill Dellinger Invite.
So guys starting to, fall off pace here a little bit. We're over halfway through. We're through the 5 kilometer. We're coming up on this last lap of this quote-unquote 2 kilometer loop. I know it's a little bit longer than 2 kilometers, but that's kind of the sense is, and you can maybe see that Oregon try to pick things up here a little bit. I definitely can see it from Abdel and Evan Bishop here. Ben Balash kind of falling off pace a little bit, and then Michael Morellis falling back into that 5th position, just right.
Getting choppy. Is that an issue on your end, or is it my end?
Just from Visser there.
It is not choppy on our end, Paul. You are sounding okay for what it's worth.
So keeping an eye on the leaders here in the Bill Dellinger Cross Country Invitational. As we're in the back half of the race, Oregon trying to insert itself here, still with some room to run, but right now they are away as a leadership of 3. Peter Visser trying to stay in the mix for Weber State, but Oregon in control right now, both individually and in the team race.
14 athletes have won this Dellinger Invitational, Paul, between both the men's and women's teams, and an opportunity to become that 15th athlete in Oregon history. That's a long line of athletes that have come through and won this. Most recently Aaron Bienfeld, go back to Cooper Cheer back in 2021. Hey, Matt Centrowitz, Edward Cheserak. I mean, there's a long line of names that are very familiar, not only in the Oregon community, but also the track and field cross country community around the globe.
Well, it's certainly what the fans have come to see and have come to expect from the men of Oregon. Dominance on the home track here as they continue to put some distance between them and Visser, with a couple of other Ducks behind them trying to close the gap here. Air Force still trying to chase down that team race and potentially put themselves into a position for second, but now through 6 kilometers, Oregon with 5 men in the top 6. Visser trying to hold off Aiden Smith, and Michael Morales is running as the 5th runner for Oregon. That looks like it's going to be that top 5 for Oregon. And now Visser saying, well, I don't want to get beat by Oregon, so why don't I just beat them all?
Well, I'm sure Peter Visser watched the replay from last year when BYU single-handedly just beat Michael Morales towards the line, and definitely don't want to see, break up the perfect score for this home crowd. Not necessarily, ruin the vibe, I guess, of having a perfect 15, but, kind of play a spoiler a little bit too, and, write your name into that history book of, Bill Dellinger Invitational, champions. But I will say this, Paul, the perfect 15 is not out of range. I like the position that Aiden Smith and Michael Morales are in right there. They're only 2 seconds behind that lead group. It's just now about, making those moves right now. And I don't know who Peter Visser is pointing to per se. He's maybe trying to get the attention of somebody. But again, I like the position that the Ducks are in right now. That perfect 15 is alive and well.
You also mentioned the unattached athlete from Oregon, Juan Gonzalez, came through 6 kilometers in 9th position, but well back of the leaders here now. It's down to this lead group of 4, and watch how this unfolds over the last couple of kilometers. And, advantageous to be one of those trio of Ducks because they can work together and maybe figure out the right moment here to attack the course, and we see them doing that now as Visser is suddenly back into 4th.
You could see high up above, the gap between our top 4, then the next 3 guys. You think, oh, that's quite a bit, but we still, less than 2 kilometers into this race. We're over a mile remaining in this race. So, even though those guys are back there still, there's still a lot of ground to make up, and I can already see it from Aiden Smith right now in the back there in that 4th position. He is, turning the legs, he's pumping the arms, looking over his shoulder to see where Michael Morales is at to make sure, is he still in position. What about this move right here from Abdel around this corner? That was a huge surge, and then a nice response from Ben Balazs and Evan Bishop.
See Aiden Smith all alone back there in 5th position. And the trio of Ducks, Lajel, Balazs, and Bishop, now putting some distance against them and Visser.
So this 10K, 8K distance, I should say, on the track, Abdel, Evan Bishop contributed points for the Ducks that won, Big Ten outdoor title. Abdel finishing, 6th in the 10,000. Evan Bishop was 3rd in the 10,000. So this is their type of range. This is the type of race that they excel in. The longer the races, the better it is for them. With 1 kilometer remaining, throw the steeplechase guy in the mix because he's as tough as nails too. And they're all working really well together here, Paul.
.29.8, the official clocking you see there now on your screen through 7 kilometers with Lajel, Bishop, and Balazs having broken away from Peter Visser, who had led this race for a few of the kilometers for Weber State. Oregon with 2 other runners behind him in Aiden Smith and Michael Morales. So Oregon's top 5 all within the top 6. And you can see that result as Oregon with 15 points on that scoreboard, and Air Force now ahead of the rest of the other squads here in a battle for 2nd place, it would appear, at the Dellinger Invite.
If I'm Aiden Smith right now, it's about just hunting down Peter Visser here and trying to get as close as you can to that perfect 15 points. Again, I think at this point, Paul, our top 3 guys are going to be the 3 guys we see in the finish shoot first, but I'm looking towards the back of that pack there. We're seeing where Aiden Smith is at, where Michael Morales is at. Is Peter Visser falling off pace? So you can see Aiden Smith now catching right up to Peter Visser here as they're making the final turns. Michael Morales still within sight too here as we're coming up to maybe less than a minute left in this race, Paul.
Yeah, some smart running in the back here for the men of Oregon, trying to close in on what could be a perfect day and a perfect score on their home course at Pine Ridge Golf Club into the final stretch of this race. And now it is for, internal bragging rights for the Ducks as they head closing to the finish.
And what a moment this could be, though, for Ben Balazs, born right here in Oregon, Sunset High School up north of here in Portland. The steeple kid, a Big Ten champion on the track this last spring, perhaps a Dellinger Invitational title as well.
Closing stretches here for the men's 8,000 meters at the Bill Dellinger Invite. And you can hear the crowd, and why not? They're celebrating a Duck win for Ben Balazs as he'll come across the line first. Evan Bishop is 2nd. Lajel will finish 3rd, followed by Aiden Smith and Peter Visser top 5 finish and the satisfaction of breaking up that perfect Oregon score, as Michael Morales will come back to this event where he has run in a different uniform, but now the transfer to Oregon finishes in 6th. The Oregon goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 on their home course.
What a moment, though, for Ben Balaj. I mean, this kid dreamt of being an Oregon Duck from the moment he, started running in high school. I mean, this was his dream school from the time that he started running, and, has fulfilled that dream, of course. And knowing him as a steeplechaser, and a really good steeplechaser, if you will, start to see that strength pay off here on the cross-country scene. And just another kind of a, not saying a storybook ending, if you will, but, to win a Bill Dellinger Invitational title as a Duck, but also be from the state of Oregon, that's a really good feeling, Paul.
Well, we mentioned about the dominance of Oregon in the top 6. Air Force had their 5 guys all in a row, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. That's why they get those 40 points, finishing in 2nd. Still waiting for Weber State, now confirmed in 3rd, it would appear. That's unofficial, with 74 points, now down to 73. But let's hear from our winner, Ben Balaj, who's with Ben McGrath.
Hello, I'm here with the winner of the 2025 Dellinger Invitational, Benny Balaj. Benny, that was a phenomenal race. You were patient for the beginning of the race, the first half, but a phenomenal kick to end the race. What are your first thoughts, first feelings after that one?
Oh, I'm so surprised. Training's been going really good. We have such a good team for distance runners. I'm a distance runner myself, but more probably the 3K 15 side. And yeah, I knew I was fit. We just came from altitude camp, but didn't expect that.
And towards the end of that race, you were running with your teammates, teammates that you've been running with all year long, and you're now one of the most long-standing Oregon athletes on the team. How does it feel to get a home win, the only opportunity this year, and you're the champion here at Dellinger?
I mean, it's crazy. It's got to be one of the best Dellinger invites ever. I mean, did it for him, I guess. I don't know. Thank you, Bill. But yeah, we were just talking about as a team how hard it is to win any cross meet and home meet. What are the odds? If you're fit, yeah, you got a better chance. But I don't know. Just crazy.
Benny Balaj, ladies and gentlemen, back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Ben. Yeah, he I have to laugh. He's talking about he didn't know that Oregon had a good a distance program heritage, and he just won the Bill Dellinger Invitational, the long-standing history of the men of Oregon, and he adds his name to the list here as the winner in this men's race. But, he mentioned it too, Keenan, and that was the other thing I talked with Jerry Schumacher about is, these, and it's not just Oregon, these college programs now go spending a month at altitude before the season begins. They are taking this cross-country season very seriously, and Balaj's surprise in his performance here is not a surprise when you think about that type of training environment and what it can bring to him on a trip down to about 400 feet above sea level.
I had a conversation last year with Graham Blanks, after he, I think it was at USA's, and how he, approached the trials, and then, of course, making the Olympic team. And he said it best, Paul. The NCAA has become, a pro-centric. It really has, because of the talent from across the board. I mean, not only you're getting great talent here in the United States, but you're getting talent from around the globe. And, if you want to be the best, you have to train like the best. As cliche as that sounds, I mean, you have to take that time and effort to go to, cities like Flagstaff or Park City, those high altitude training camps that a lot of the professional runners go to, and you see the benefits pay off. In the case, for Oregon, this Oregon team, to me, is a podium team. I firmly believe, after watching this team today, and I know there's a lot of other great teams out there in the NCAA, but this is a really, really good Oregon team. And it's been a few years, been a while, maybe since back when the Pals were coaches there at the University of Oregon, when this Oregon team had a presence at the national stage, especially in cross country. And again, really impressed by the transporters, but more so impressed by the fact that Ben Balaj, a steepler as we've known him for the last few years, really make a presence known here. And again, very fast course, going to be totally different from when, these guys go to East Lansing for their Big Ten cross-country championships, or, a similar course down in Sacramento for the West Regionals. then go all the way to Columbia, Missouri for the national championships. But they really impressed me today, Paul, and especially, this trio right here. You got Ben Balazs leading here towards the end. You have the transfers in Lagelle and Bishop making a presence. Aiden Smith fighting his way back towards the end of this race. And, Michael Morales, that's a solid number 5 you got back there, a guy who's a sub-4 miler. You take that any day. And then, gosh, Juan Gonzalez, who was running unattached today. I said, Jerry Schumacher might have to reevaluate that. We may not have to use that red shirt this year, Juan.
Where they have donuts, coffee,
Yeah,
coffee.
got some decisions to make, some opportunities to make as we take another look at the results coming through as we await, I think, maybe 1 or 2 more runners. We've got 86 across the line. I think we started with a little over 90. Sometimes they'll fall off the course, but we'll keep a camera on there just in case you were waiting to watch someone you tuned in to follow finish the line. A reminder, the women will race here at the top of the hour, about 15 minutes away. They will race the 6,000-meter distance, just 2 races on the schedule at the Bill Dellinger Invitational. Oregon with 5 in the top 6. Air Force, again, had 5 of theirs in successive order. That got them the 50 points for second place overall. And Weber State finishing in 3rd. UC Davis finishing 4th, just ahead, 1 spot of UCLA that rounds out the top 5. Good reflection of the team aspect of the sport here, as looks like UC Riverside bringing their final runner across as